Hi everyone, this is Nathan from Snap and welcome to another of our Snap XMP webinars. Today we're going to be looking at how to create a company branded survey template along with creating a library of standardized questions which users can then simply drag and drop into a questionnaire. It should take about 30 minutes and as ever there's plenty of further resources available which I'll be pointing you to at the end. We'll be looking at adding your logos, colours and fonts to a branded template builder, transforming that into your own template and then adding that to a survey pack. A survey pack can contain multiple templates along with a library of standardised questions and statements that can then be dragged into a new questionnaire or form. Snap XMP is very much powered by the use of templates, so if you can create your own branded template and survey pack, then you'll be making the process of survey creation that much more efficient. For a start, it will save you time by giving your projects a jump start in terms of creating company branded surveys, giving your surveys and forms a consistent look and feel. You can ensure the correct terminology is used, avoiding any ambiguity within your question text. And this leads into your analysis where things like age bandings are the same across different projects, allowing for comparisons to take place. Introductions and privacy statements, including hyperlinks, can be included by default or added to your library. And a really big one, templates allow for all users, regardless of their research background, to create professionally designed surveys and forms using the library of predefined questions. This means the responsibility of creation doesn't fall just at the feet of just one person. Okay, let's take you into the software. Today we're going to be building a branded survey template which can be used to design surveys in both Snap XMP desktop and Snap XMP online. And we're going to be creating that template and also the survey pack, which is the library of questions, in the desktop software. We're going to be working in offline mode. That means that the files are initially stored on my own PC and we're going to be making use of a branded template builder. Now this branded template builder is available to download from our website via the template worksheet and I'm going to be pointing you to that at the end. Now the first thing we're going to do is actually clone this template builder just so that we've got the original for future use. I'm going to give that a name of just in-crowd template builder, which is my pretend company name. And I should add that we do update this template builder from time to time. So if you are going to be looking to create a new template, it's worth making sure you sort of download the latest one from our website. Essentially, the template builder is a survey containing an example of each and every type of question, including a placeholder for the logo. And if we scroll right down to the very bottom, you can see we have a thank you message, and there's actually two different thank you messages. One which is based on your online surveys, telling people to press submit. So that's for the tablet and the phone edition as well. And then for the paper edition, we have a message telling them where to send the completed form. Likewise, if we move up to the top, you'll notice that we've actually got two images or placeholder images, one which is for a paper survey, and then for the online editions we have a different logo. And that's typically because when looking at logos you would typically have a higher resolution image for your paper survey and a lower resolution one for any online surveys. So I'm just going to quickly replace these logos. Browse off, and you can see I've got two logos, look very similar, but one's a slightly higher resolution. So there's my paper edition. And then if I go into the online edition, I'm going to have a slightly different logo. I said essentially it's pretty much the same. Do remember to make use of your alt text. This was an important accessibility consideration. Next we're going to look at the checkboxes, and to do that I'm going to click on question number 1. We're going to be making a change not to this actual question, but the question style. And to do that, we need to go into style mode. And I want to make a change to all the questions at the same time. So we're going to select all styles. So the change I'm making won't just affect the single choice question, it'll also do the multi-choice question, the grid question, etc., etc. And if I then head into boxes, and then we have images. So here we can select different images. So if I click one of the on images, and I could browse off to a completely different image if I wanted to, but today I'm just going to make use of the company colors within my logo. So if I click on colorize and click on more colors, we could put all our different RGB numbers in here to replicate our company logo. Today I've already done that. I've got the orange and the dark grey. So for my buttons, I'm going to go with the orange and click OK and click OK again. And today I'm going to specify that I want all my buttons to look the same regardless of whether it's a single choice question or a multi-choice question. So I'm going to have square images for them all. If I click OK. Now just bear in mind that's a formatting change, so really I need to also make those same changes in the tablet and the phone edition and potentially also the paper edition, but just to save some time today we're not going to worry about that. Next we're going to look at font changes. So if I go to font, now the danger here is that it's still on all styles, so any changes I make would also affect the title and subtitle instructions. So this time we're going to do it at an individual level. So I'll choose the single choice question and I'm going to specify that I want the text to be size 16. I'll then need to scroll down to do the same for the multi-choice question. The drop-down question I don't need to worry about, is already pretty much, the drop-down is very much related to a single choice and a multi-choice question, but for the open-ended questions. So it does take a little bit longer doing it question type by question type, but it just gives you a little bit more control over the changes you're making, and there's sort of no danger of accidentally making a change to a style which you didn't wish to. So likewise, these question styles are very much related to some of the other question styles we've done, so it's actually done that for me already. Now, one question which crops up now and again is to do with question numbers. So for our standard templates, we've defaulted to hidden question numbers for the online editions. I've got the different editions here. Obviously for the paper edition, I have got the question numbers on. And the reasoning behind this includes space considerations, particularly for the phone edition, where you're obviously working with a much smaller screen. But more so, if your survey or form has routing, it's likely that respondents are going to be skipping out questions. They may or may not realise that that's happening, so it could be actually confusing for someone to answer perhaps question number 4, and then suddenly the next question they see is question 12. Or they may be tempted to go back to question 4, change their answer, just to see which questions it is that they were being skipped over. Without your question numbers on display, it's not quite so obvious that that's happening and that there's different routes from start to finish. But there will be projects where having question numbers on display is going to be advantageous, and as such you might wish to create a template that can be used in those situations. Examples where numbers might be preferential include audits, tests and quizzes, and perhaps certain forms where it's useful to know what question number you're going to be on. But in most instances, question numbers don't really add anything to the respondent. They take up valuable space, and as mentioned, they can also cause some confusion. But for those wishing to add question numbers back in, I'm going to do that using all styles. I'll just click on question 1 initially. And remember, that's also going to affect my title, subtitle and instruction, but we're going to turn those back off again in just a second. And we'll need to go to show, and it's the name that we're looking to activate. Now the reason it's called the name and not the number is because there will be some situations where you may wish to give your questions actual worded numbers or worded names rather than number names, if you like. Examples where this might be handy is where you're seeding in data from a database, or at the analysis stage where you might perhaps give the age question a name of age rather than just question whatever. So you can see that's turned on all the question numbers. What I will now need to do is make sure that the font of those question numbers is the same. So again, going back to font, it's the name that we're changing. And again, I will change that to size 16. Now, as I said, that has also made all those changes to the titles and subtitles, etc. So I'm going to go back to my title and this time say change all the note variables. So the note variables is anything which isn't really a question. So title, subtitle, instruction, etc. And go back to show. And this time we're going to effectively deactivate the name. Now, as I scroll through, you notice that some of the sort of what we call sort of part questions or sort of follow-on questions have got numbers on. So typically other would be a if other, please specify. You quite often wouldn't have your question number on display there. So again, I'm going to turn that one off. The same for the grid next questions, I'm going to turn that off. Incidentally, if you did want to turn on the numbering for your sort of follow-on questions, that would typically be done using the grid name. So it would be 5A, 5B, etc., etc. But I'll turn those off a second. So again, just going to work my way down, just making sure that it is only got the question numbers on the questions that I definitely do want. Okay. Now, occasionally when you're working your way through the different styles, you may notice in this drop-down menu, it says like a certain style. Now, just bear with me whilst I set it up for this a second. So I'm effectively just going to make question 1 an italic question. So you can see it's now saying a like choice. Now, this means that the change was made to the actual question rather than the question style, which essentially means that you made the change in design mode rather than style mode. But it's an easy fix. I can go back into style mode, and if I go into style organizer, I've got two options available. It could be that I go into properties and I might actually create a brand new question style, perhaps naming it single choice italics. Or if you perhaps splitting this question to 2 columns, you could call it single choice 2 columns. The other option would be to reassign all your single choice question styles to look like this. So effectively every time you create a new single choice question, it would have italics. But today I'm going to cancel out of that and just undo that change anyway. Again, remember when we're talking about font that we're talking about formatting, so it is on a edition by edition basis. So really we need to make those changes to the other editions as well. And of course you may well decide to have different font sizes in your different editions. I'll quickly save, and if we head into questionnaire properties, within here there's various settings including what's going to happen when someone presses the submit button. So you may well wish someone to be sent off to the home page of your website, or better still, you might create a bespoke thank you page on your website where after they press the submit button, they're redirected there. I'm going to leave it on the default today, which just means you'll be taken off to the default Snap thank you page. If I come down to buttons, these are the navigational buttons which are displayed at the bottom of each page. So we've got next, reset, etc. If I click on design, we can go and select a completely different type of button. Today, I'm just going to make use of the different colors. And as before, if I go into more colors, and this time I'm going to make use of the darker gray for my logo. So again, just using the RGB numbers from before. I click OK. And if I come down to the individual submit button, this time I'm going to make an edit just to that submit button rather than the design which was affecting all the buttons at the same time. So just need to confirm that the change I'm going to make is just affecting this submit button. And this time I'm going to choose the orange for my logo. So the idea being that hopefully it stands out a little bit and will encourage people to actually press submit at the end. There are lots of other useful sections in here to consider, but again, just to save some time, we're going to leave it as it is. And just remember, some of these options within here are formatting options, particularly the things like the color of the buttons. So again, some of these settings will need to be set for each of the different editions at the bottom. Again, you may decide to have a different set of buttons on the phone edition, for example. Okay, so let's save what we've done so far. And at this stage, I'm going to close the survey down using this survey overview. And I'm going to make another clone of this survey, the template build at this stage. Mainly so if we need to make any changes in the future, I've always got the original template builder to go back to. So this time I'm going to call this one the in-crowd template. I'm going to add some placeholder text to my title. And I'll do the same for my subtitle. And I'm going to do one final placeholder bit, which is for my single choice question. Then it's a case of removing anything which you don't want to be in your survey as a starting point. So I'm going to initially remove that instruction. And to be honest, I'm going to remove pretty much everything else from the survey. So I'm just highlighting all the bits I don't want. I'll leave the thank you message on there. Remember, we've got the hidden one, which is from the paper survey as well. So I'll just delete that. So today we're left with the thank you message at the bottom. We've got some placeholder text for my sort of introduction and my first question, and of course my logos at the top. And as I said, we've got the two different logos in there. So do be sure that you're happy with the look of your paper survey as well. And we could go up and do a print preview if you wanted to, but again, I'm not going to worry about that today. Obviously, you may wish to add some more specific questions and introductions to your template, including perhaps hyperlinks off to your privacy statements, etc. And you can do that by making use of the insert and HTML field. There's more information on our support hub about that, but again, we're going to leave that one for today. I'll save with my blue tick, and then we're just going to do a quick preview. Now, just notice before I do my preview, I've left it on the PC laptop edition. That just means that when we turn this into a template in just a moment, that it will always start on the PC laptop edition by default. Okay, so let's have a quick look at this preview. So you can see it's pulled through my company logo. I've got my introduction text. I've got obviously the different color navigational buttons as well as the orange checkboxes. Okay, we'll close that one down for the time being and go back into the survey within Snap. And then we're going to close down this survey just by using the survey overview. And now we're happy with that, we can turn this into an actual template, because at the moment it's just a normal survey. So up to the File menu and Save as Template. I'll just remove the number 1 at the end. So you can see we've got two very similar files. One is a survey, so anyone could go in there and make edits to that and ultimately break it. And then we have the actual template. So the only thing we can do with that is double click on it, which would effectively create a new survey based on that template. So really a template is a locked down version of an existing survey. Next, we're going to take things a step further and create a survey pack. Now, a survey pack contains a template or a number of templates, but it also potentially contains some predefined questions that are available to drag and drop into an existing survey. So if we go up to the reference window, so it's opened up by default on the reference survey pack, which comes pre-installed with Snap, and that reference pack contains a number of different questions broken down by different topics, so gender, age, etc. And you can see there's a preview at the bottom of some of the different age questions. This survey pack is sort of locked down, so you cannot edit this one. So instead, we're going to make use of the user survey pack, and this one is also supplied with Snap, but this is one that we can edit. So I'm going to go straight into edit mode. And you can see we've already given you a couple of sort of folders to begin with, so a frequently asked questions folder and a privacy statements folder. Those are empty at the moment, but we can also create some additional sort of folder topics and sections and questionnaires, etc. And you can see down the bottom there's also the templates section, which is where we're going to put our templates in just a second. So as I said, we're in edit mode at the moment, and it's simply a case of right-clicking on the templates folder and importing the template that we just created a second ago. So import template. Here's my template created just a few moments ago. We can give it a different name if we want to, but I'm happy with that. And we have some additional details which we could add in there. So I'm just going to add some text. And we've also got the option to add in a preview sort of thumbnail, which is useful if you've got a number of different templates. So I'm just going to browse off to my desktop and again just make use of the logo that I had before. Click OK. It's going to remove anything which is personal to me and then click OK again. So now that my template's been added to my survey pack, it's probably worth checking to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I'll just close down the reference window. And I'm still within my folder, which is actually on my desktop today. So I'm going to create a new survey. I have the option to make use of the templates which are pre-built into Snap or supplied with Snap. But today we're going to make use of one of my own personal templates. Now I've got a number of different ones based on a number of different projects that I work with. So I've got a number from All Good Bank and All Good Wines. You can see in the description some of them have got privacy statements with hyperlinks in there. There's a sort of a full wine stock question. There's some demographic questions in there. If I scroll down today, we've also got the in-crowd template. Click next. And if I give it a title of just test of template, click OK. So it's pulled everything that we're expecting it to pull through. Just going to perhaps add another sort of question. Just going to add maybe just a grid question. Just have a couple of answers. And for my sub questions, I'm just going to put 3 in today. So parking, facilities and cleanliness. And to make it a little bit more realistic, I'm going to pop a page break in there and then we'll do a quick preview. Okay, so we can see we've got my orange checkboxes, I've got my hover text, and I've got my different navigational buttons. If we move back to our survey pack, as mentioned, we have got 2 folders in there, frequently asked questions and privacy statements. And here we can add some questions which I may have used in previous surveys. So again, I'm going to close down my test survey using the survey overview. And I have a survey here called frequently asked questions. Now this could just be a survey from a previous sort of year, or in like today it could just be a made up survey with lots of random questions in there. So if I open this one up, you can see I have a number of different questions, different types of questions, and down the bottom I've got a couple of sort of statements as well, including down the bottom hyperlink, which will take you off to look at sort of a privacy statement. And it's simply a case of taking some questions. Again, I'm just going to make sure that I'm in edit mode. So I'm going to take question 1 and the set of grid questions, and I'm going to drag them in to my survey pack. And I could do the same for my privacy statements down the bottom. Again, I'm going to take all 3 of them, drag them across, and this time pop them into my privacy statements folder. Okay, so next time we're creating a brand new survey, not only would we be starting with a survey which contains your company logo, your introductions, your company branding, etc., but we've also got some frequently asked questions that we can drag and drop from. Got the option to drag it and drop it below that question. Now, one thing just to bear in mind with survey packs is that survey pack was created on my desktop, so it's actually on my C drive. So if you want your colleagues or clients to have access to a survey pack and the templates that are contained within it, then you are going to need to give them access to this particular survey pack. So it's just a case of going into the location of where that's stored. So it's just on my C drive today, so I'm just going to browse. And there's my user survey pack. So I could copy that one, email it off to a colleague and ask them to put that in exactly the same place on their computer. When they then click the single plus to create a new survey, it will be making use of that new template. Now, one thing you might wish to do just before you do send that to someone is possibly to password protect this, just to stop anyone from making any edits to that. So back into edit mode, and there's a padlock at the end. So you can password protect that survey pack. So yes, your colleagues and clients could have access to make use of it. What they can't do is ultimately edit it and break it. So that's my templates and survey packs all set up for the desktop. You can also make use of these templates in Snap XMP Online. So I'm just going to close this survey down and go back to my template. Now at the moment this template, remember, is stored just on my PC, my local, in fact it's actually saved on my desktop today. So the first thing we need to do is to effectively move this into our online account, and the easiest way to do that is just to clone that template. So we're going to clone it as an online survey. Now I already have a folder called survey templates, so it makes sense to pop it in there. You can see that's just logging into my online account. And now if I go and open up Snap Online, so if I go into my survey templates folder, just refresh the screen, you can see I now have my in-crowd template. I'm just going to go into that one, and like we did in the desktop earlier, I'm just going to pop an image on there just to again make it obvious what this template is. So just going to browse off to my desktop and make use of the image from earlier. And there we go. So that template's now available for me to create a survey. In fact, I'll go back into my webinars folder, click on new item. So again, I have access to the templates which are pre-built into Snap, or I can make use of my user templates. Again, I've got a number of different ones in here already. So today, can I make use of the in-crowd one? Give it a name of test 2 of template. And then I'm ready to start designing in the normal way. Now, just to finish off, it may well be that you wish to give colleagues access to this online template. So if I go back into my templates folder, and if I click on shares, you can see that this entire folder has been shared with my colleague called Bill, and Bill has full access as a researcher. So every time Bill wants to create a new survey, Bill has access to all 4 of these templates. Whereas it may be that just for my in-crowd template, I wish to give a new colleague or a new client access to that template. So within this template, click on shares. I'm going to add a new user based on an email address. So I'm going to make use of let's pretend I'm working with a client who works for surveydesigns.com. Tom is going to have full access to make use of that template and save. So for the in-crowd template, Tom has access to it, and Bill also has access to it because Bill had access to everything within the templates folder. Okay, so hopefully that's provided you with the steps required to build your own company branded template. You can also now see the benefits that come with having one, as well as having that library of standardized questions. As mentioned previously, there is a how-to tutorial on our support hub, which includes that branded template builder, which I was using earlier. So you can download that one from there, and that can be accessed using the QR code in the middle. We also run a 1-hour online course on templates and survey packs. More information on that can be found using the QR code on the left. And if you have got a spare 2 minutes to complete a short questionnaire about today's webinar, I'd really appreciate that. That can be accessed using the last QR code on the right. But don't worry, I will be emailing you in the next day or so with links to these resources as well as a recording of today's webinar. Thank you for joining me today, and we will hopefully see you again soon.